efficient, right? So we're basically helping people to maximize their DeFi income in the most simple and secure manner. YieldNest.
Dio, thanks so much for joining us. And we're happy that you're the first one on the second day.
Yeah, amazing.
You get to tell us about your experience on the first day.
Yes.
But before that, I would like for you to kind of explain what YieldNest is and what's your space in the staking ecosystem.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And so great conference. Just listen to Vitalik speak, and it's great to come after that here and to have a nice conversation in the morning. Yeah, YieldNest. What is YieldNest? YieldNest is a liquid restaking protocol. And basically what we do, we take existing assets, and people were able to restake them or make them more capital efficient, right? So we're basically helping people to maximize their DeFi income in the most simple and secure manner. YieldNest gives the highest risk-adjusted returns in the market of any other LRT, and we balance between all the different restaking platforms. We already recognized that there was probably going to be a lot of restaking platforms. I already had that in the core architecture when I designed YieldNest. I didn't expect it to be so fast, but luckily it's good to see all that innovation. And YieldNest is here for people to make DeFi simpler, more secure, and give them the highest risk-adjusted returns by removing most of the complexities, by giving people just one asset. They can put their ETH or their USD, their BTC or BNB, just 4 denominated assets, and give the highest yields. That's it.
Okay, so you're currently accepting deposits in 4 assets?
So there's 4 denominated assets. This is a new product range, and that's where we want to go to basically give people 4 options. Hey, you have ETH, and you want to maximize the income of that. Then basically with any asset you get into that product, obviously, right? Because we can swap that asset to the other asset, right?
Course,
But the underlying asset, we call them the max LRT vault, so ynETHx. The underlying assets are, for example, ynETHx ETH, Mental ETH, there's a basket of very blue chip underlying LSTs that we take. Then we put this in this liquid restaking token, and then what happens underneath, it goes to EigenLayer, Symbiotic, Nectar, or other restaking platforms. And what we actually see happening, that there's a lot of restaking platforms that go beyond restaking. Right? For example, Nectar is a shared security marketplace or restaking platform, but also does a lot of things with liquidity or risk underwriting or other things. And I think that's where the industry is going. And with YieldNest, there's one place, one vault, one LRT where people can kind of put their assets, and then the max LRT is going to allocate this to the most efficient marketplaces, or where that liquidity can be reused in a very risk-adjusted way. So we're not doing any weird leverage or crazy things, but it's going to give another 8 to 10% yield on top of the base yield that things already have. Right?
And this asset management, how does it work? Is it like kind of an automated thing, or with an algorithm, or is it something that you kind of discuss among yourselves, or how does it work? Yeah, no,
that is a great question, right? So we started with a couple of products. Now I talked about the max LRTs, kind of the main product range that we're rolling out right now. Underlying, it's just a couple of base assets like ynETH, ynLSDe, ynBNB. That is more advanced page, and on top of that we have the max LRTs, and they rebalance, right? And it's like, in the beginning, it's going to be a very basic asset allocation function that has set certain parameters, and if assets come in, it allocates, right? In the beginning, it's quite straightforward and simple and basic. As a DeFi builder, what I learned, the most stupid thing you can do is to already skip a lot of the step and build the most advanced model. So we want to keep it as simple and manageable as we can, and then we want to increase the hardness, the complexity, the decentralization, right? So in the beginning, it's going to be a little bit more centralized because we will have to rebalance and really monitor like what's happening and what is like the most efficient way to rebalance. And then over time, when we find the most efficient way, it's going to be hardened and enshrined into that like vault, right?
And you can tweak it a little bit and try to optimize it step by step, right?
Yeah, exactly,
little by
right?
Little.
And how I would describe it, and I think the audience here is also a little bit more technical, right? So I would say that max LRT vault. So what I just said, like those 4 denominated assets, and ETH max, ynETHx, ynBNBx, ynBTCx, and ynUSDx. Those are glues. You can see them as some sort of a glue, where around these vaults or LSTs, there's co-processors or keepers, right? That kind of take all the accounting of the underlying strategies into that one glue, right? So the strategies kind of stand alone, and they can have an eigenlayer strategy, a symbiotic strategy, a nectar strategy, and then everything that happens there is going to kind of get accounted back to the main.
Nice.
Main vault.
Yeah, that's pretty nice image view to know, understand what's going on. You have this glue, and then you spread out to these different strategies, and then come back to the main, not vault, but kind of.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to discuss with you as well, we've seen like if you go into the main room, there's all of these different LST, LRTs protocol. Each of them have their own cool image and whatnot, but in essence, what do you think distinguishes each one of them, and where do you stand alone among them? What's your competitive advantage between those?
Yeah, so it's I would say like the LST space, right? It's the liquid staking token. I think the biggest one's Lido, right? So you see Lido, there's a big stand here. They're the biggest liquid staking token, liquid staking, the LSD. That's a much narrower market, right? So there's Rocket Pool, there's Lido, and there's maybe a handful of others. And they are all competing on the level of like, bring your own validator, or they're competing on the margins, because the margins are getting very thin on the liquid staking token side. If we know, and that's why also it's very hard to enter that market. So that's why YieldNest is also not a liquid staking token or staking derivative. We are a liquid restaking token. And I do think that restaking term that we call restaking is a super high level, broad term that actually as an industry is a new primitive that we probably need to distill. And in that term and in that angle, there's in that new primitive has a lot of new possibilities and new specialized players can emerge in these sectors. So I think the LST space is more narrow. So we see maybe 5 to 10 different big players. In the restaking space, or the liquidity utilization or liquidity marketplaces, shared security marketplaces, it's a more complex and more diverse industry. So I think there will be hundreds hundreds of players with all specializations.
It's pretty interesting that you very clearly divide, like this LST is one space, and then LRTs is a completely different game, and that can offer very different things. Because I heard Mike from ethify the other day, and he was like, for me, LRT, LST, it's all the same. It's just, we kind of differentiate it, but it's very interesting because, and I think it's more to do with this background than yours. Like, it's very financial minded guy, so it's just money coming in, coming out, and putting it somewhere else. And you are much more technical minded person. Like, you think, okay, this is one way to do it, where you have your base Ethereum or whatever, and you put it in a trusted partner, right? And then you get a liquid token that you can then use. And you think the LRTs are more like, okay, you have all of these LSTs, and now you can use them in different ways for different kind of finality. So it's a very different spectrum, and it kind of puts it all together.
Yeah, it's a completely different spectrum. I think also if you look at ethify and the other liquid restaking tokens, they're all struggling with that. And I think YieldNest did find that way of like how we do it, right? We don't want to create a single token per different restaking platform or per different asset, right? With restaking, it's going to be very important to create specialized buckets of capital that are underwriting risks of specific DeFi components, in my opinion.
Right? That makes sense. Yeah.
And that's why also I think that's also the advantage of YieldNest, where we see that, and we do a lot of research with the Llama risk team, with the YieldNest risk team. We have a dedicated like R&D unit that dives really deep into these different components, and you can find that on our website. And there's a lot of papers, for example, on ynDE, or there's papers on symbiotic, there's papers on eigenlayer. We dive really deep, and what I see is that right now, eigenlayer, symbiotic, and other players, the slashing is not live yet, so there's no real AVS yields. And the reason for that is that there's not good SDKs yet for all these networks, AVSs or DDSSs. I call them restake application, RAs I call them, restake applications. So you have just a term for all these different restake platforms and restake protocols that will emerge. And what do these restake protocols simply do? Restake protocols just let us package financial instruments and let us package that in different ways and then have to combine that with economic security. And we can then build new primitives. We can connect different protocols together. So we can basically maybe have a combination of YieldNest and Frax or YieldNest and Curve. And these financial flows can flow better between protocols. So the liquidity fragmentation problem, or the fragmentation problem in general, can be solved with like kind of restaking, repurposing economic security to kind of trustedly remove the barriers for composability of like, hey, I want to compose this component and that component, but there's a gap because there needs to be finality in between, right? So if I send one asset from me to you, like you only trust it when there's a final block confirmation that it happens, right? And imagine if I send money to you and you send money to somebody else, right? Then it needs to be finality to you and then finality to the last person. And the same thing goes with the protocol. With restaking, we can optimistically remove these finality issues and say like, okay, the money is here and I trust it's here because there is like $100 million in between that's restaked that sees the money is flowing, that there is one block confirmation here. I can see the money went out of this wallet and the restakers could optimistically then underwrite that money will eventually go there. And I think that's where restaking components will need to evolve more into, so that we eventually, and that's going to sound very scary, but it's going to be more like like we can rebuild the mortgage-backed security markets, or we can rebuild some of these protocol communications where they can package each other's like time duration risks, where now if I withdraw from Lido I need to wait 7 to 14 days or and if these things we can package those risks and have like restakers kind of take those risks. So I see actually restaking as more like this risk trading, and that's all trading actually, right?
Really, I never thought about it that way. It's really interesting that you think about it. Thinking of risk and going into more of the degen mindset. Like,
yes.
We have all of these points now. Everyone has points, and everyone likes to advertise their point. What do you think about this point ecosystem, and do you think it's sustainable in the long term? And what comes after the points?
So YieldNest started also like a long time ago, like Defi, Renzo, all the other ones that were doing points. Like I saw that, and to myself, from the YieldNest point of view, I thought like, oh, let's just keep building, because why would I launch something if there's no real yield yet? Why would I launch something with points? That's been tried many times before. Like points are not new. There's air miles. There's points if you go to a coffee shop. Like points are very common thing.
Points, right?
And for some reason, the eigenlayer points and that stuff took off, and that I think it has to do with the Selassie airdrop was kind of successful. People saw eigenlayer and they're like, oh, let's jump on it. So it's all a bit narrative based. And I think points are not good or bad, but I think there's been players in the industry that have highly abused this point narrative and milked a lot of the retail investors, and they gave points to the retail and then basically sell the points to the institutional or to the capital like deals, right? So that has been very toxic for the industry, and very sad that happened in that way, to be honest. And the industry needs to heal a little bit from that. But YieldNest also has points, because that was like that narrative that was pushed, and we have to. If we wouldn't have points, people would also ask us like, why don't you have points, right?
I guess you're kind of stuck there because there's no way.
Yeah, you're stuck there. But we don't like points. But the points we build we built our points in a completely verifiable way. So it's on-chain. On-chain actions give points. Points don't just come out of nowhere. You cannot just print it or inflate it, which others did. We don't do that. So we give the fair points, we distribute, and points are just a way to. It does help us, right? And for example, Layer 0. Layer 0 did an airdrop, and they spent 1 month of engineering time of all these very smart engineers to do the Sybil.
To check Sybil accounts.
Yeah, to do Sybil protection or Sybil. They remove all the farmers or something, right? And they even had like this website where you could report farmers that you knew.
Oh, really?
And it was like this whole thing, and they spent like a lot of engineering time solving that. So points are nice, because with points I can be like, okay, I'm giving you points. I'm basically already accounting, like if I potentially do an airdrop, maybe not, maybe I will, maybe not. I can do that airdrop and I can see very clearly who owns what, right?
Who supported for the longest?
And points are useful for that, and that's it, right? And it gives the user some insight into like, oh, I have this many points. But what's very important, like points are not tokens, and like points are just showing your participation in a certain protocol and potential rewards that you could get, right? And I think we should never financialize these points or get too carried away with it. We should focus on crypto. Because building a point system is actually pretty hard. Like building a point system by just, I deposit in a protocol, I get a point. Like that's easy, right? But building a point system where the token itself becomes liquid, and if I deposit in a curve pool, then I get points, and I withdraw from the curve pool, then I go back into the underlying token, for example, I get X points, and if I go here, I get a boost of X, Y, Z. Actually, that whole system,
complex.
You're almost building a whole new blockchain, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
complex. And it's stupid because it removes the engineering time from like a core protocol. Like YieldNest and others, we just want to focus on restaking and getting the highest yields. I want to get the highest yields from my users. I don't want to get the highest points.
Of course,
I want to get the highest yield. So that was always the focus of YieldNest, and that's also why now like YieldNest has 12.5% as an LRT. It's basically the highest yield right now on an LRT. And yeah, we do that because that's what we were focused on.
Yeah, I guess for me the point system is just, what I don't like it is what you said, the transparency issue, that it's nothing on chain.
No, it's nothing on chain.
Nothing on chain. So it's kind of a...
Well, our point system is, right? So it's fully deterministic. But even, I would admit here, like a point system is very complex to build, right? So because of when it goes into the protocol, it's easy, but when it starts to move around, about layer 1, layer 2s, imagine how do you account all those events? Because the blockchain just gives an event, and then you need to count points, and then there's another event.
Index all of the layer 2s and just find the events that are happening. It's scary.
But we found a more efficient way to do it, because we only give points at the moment when a transaction happens, and then we can account it. The point system doesn't have a database, basically. So the point system has a database when it starts up because it needs to account everything, but you could destroy the database, restart the point system, and recalculate everything because everything is on chain.
Back engineer everything.
Yeah. And that is the better way to do it.
I think it's the only good way to do it.
It's the only good way to do it, but I think there's also a lot of innovation there. Like ideally, like we built this in-house, but that's not our core business. So we want somebody else ideally to build it for us, but like we build it, we're probably just going to open source it and hope people will just use it for what it is and do not inflate points. I think it's very important, like any point system, we don't want people to inflate it. It's very toxic. Yeah,
it's very easy to people to get excited seeing the numbers go up, right?
Yeah.
Which I think it's also the
monkeynomics, I call it. And that's not what we want to optimize for. We want to create zero-sum games. We don't want to create Ouroboros. We want to create net positive incentives, right? When I create the max LRTs are rebalancing restaking platforms, but also because underlying you have all these assets, they're also rebalancing and optimizing these different LP positions, they're optimizing the underlying assets. So overall, I believe in net positive games. So what I want to do with YieldNest, I want to make DeFi, self-sovereign money layer, and I want to make it better and better and better. And we all together do little pieces of that puzzle. And YieldNest makes better liquidity marketplace. We'll make sure that there's more liquidity, and we'll make that shared security space real. And with Nectar also expand the liquidity sets and a lot of other things that are coming out very soon. And so we want to focus on making DeFi better for everyone.
Nice. I can see you're very proud of what you're doing and what you've done so far. That's really nice to see. Let's move back a little bit from YieldNest and all the LSTs and a little broader view on the staking as a whole. And what do you think is the narrative that's coming this year? So I remember last year everyone was talking about EigenLayer, of course, a lot of DVT talk and whatnot, a lot of some Bitcoin here and there, but not a lot of Bitcoin staking. And this year I still haven't figured out what's the next trend. Do you have any insights on that? Any clue?
Yeah, I think the DeFi renaissance is coming. The composability of DeFi applications is going to be more seamless even than during DeFi summer. And in DeFi summer we had this, we discovered we have one ledger, we have all these components that we can do. Now with all these new, with shared security, single slot finality, and risk underwriting with restaking, we can build even more extensive DeFi, intertwined DeFi protocol. And I think a DeFi renaissance. And from meme coins to mean reverting, I always say. I mean reverting, I mean yield generating protocols or protocols that are clearly adding value. And have cash flows.
We need more of this.
Yeah, we need that. And that was kind of dampened down because I'm now more open to say those things because I feel more relaxed to say it. Now Trump won, right? To be honest, because before it was if Kamala Harris would become president, what kind of SEC would we get? and then you get all these enforcement letters. I think that's going to dampen down a little bit. It's not going to go away because it doesn't really matter if it's Kamala or Trump. I don't think it would really matter in the grander scheme of things. With Trump, it does speed up things a little bit, and it gives us a little bit of slowdown to harden our infrastructure. But at some point, the regulators will come in. They're going to censor. They're going to do these things. So that's going to come, obviously, right? So there's a reason why we built immutable, censorship-resistant infrastructure. But that will become very important over time. But now I feel we're going to get a little bit of leeway, and then we will be able to build this DeFi renaissance with cash flow, generating assets, and we're allowed to say it again. I think we can openly talk about it. We don't have to hide anymore, like for a bit. But then, yeah. So I think DeFi renaissance.
I can see you're excited for 2025 then.
Yes, I'm very excited. Cool. Very bullish.
Cool.
Yes.
Then I expect to see you next year in Dubai on the next Staking Summit.
Amazing, Dubai next year, right? I will be in Dubai.
You didn't see the video, the opening video?
I
yesterday.
I didn't see that. No.
Then I'll share it with you. It's really cool. So amazing. Just to wrap things up.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, what are you thinking about the summit, and what are kind of your expectations to take home from the summit?
So yesterday I overheard a conversation. It's like, oh my god, it's so serious here. There's no degens, and that's I kind of like it. I think the staking summit is a testament of like the maturity of the decentralized financial space, and it's really maturing. We're not just a bunch of hippies in the basement doing some weird blockchain stuff. It's becoming real. We're here in
an industry, an actual industry.
We're an actual industry. We're making real revenue, real money. There's a lot of money involved. We're here in the beautiful Kapinski Hotel in Thailand. Next year, Dubai. Like these conferences, the ecosystem, they're growing so much. And here, it's a really packed conference. There's a lot of quality people, and I would say that's a great job from Staking Rewards to bring all these quality people together and have us, instead of going online and stuff, like come together. And the most amazing thing is that actually at Staking Rewards here, there's a lot of competition. So like YieldNest and Mellow, we talk to each other, or YieldNest and Inception, or YieldNest and other LRTs. We openly talk, we openly discuss all the issues we're facing, and that's amazing because the industry relatively still feels like there's no winner takes all, because we feel the expansion of our industry. If we work together, it's still just the start of it, right? It's still just the start of it.
That's really nice to hear. That's really cool. Well, I want to thank you for coming here. If you want to share with our viewers like where they can find YieldNest,
yes.
Go ahead.
So yeah, please go to YieldNest.finance, or just go to YieldNestFi on Twitter and check out our new product. We currently have a product live, the Max LRT Vault. It's capped at $1 million because it's this new kind of primitive we're launching. We're testing that market right now. So if you get in, there's a 12.5% APY that you can earn for basically up to $1 million. So right now there's around 100K deposited in it. It just went live like yesterday night.
Okay.
So it just went live, and everybody
gotta go get my ledger then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, check out YieldNest, check out our new Max LRTs, and super excited to.
Cool. We'll add all the links in the description below. Thanks again, man, and hope to see you again soon.
Yes. Thank you, guys. See you.